come up to this, yeah, come up to the dais, podium. Hit the little thing that looks like a person talking. Give your name and your municipality, and let us know what's on your mind.
Rebecca Hildebrandt, Village of Cottage Grove. I am on the corner of Weldbridge and Main, 325 North Main, so on the south side, I guess, of Weldbridge, on the west side of Main Street. So we're just concerned about the updates to what's going to be happening with that intersection with the planned development outside of town. So just wanted to mostly to hear about what's going on, but also say that we're very concerned about what's going to be happening with that intersection and the development of it, and then obviously the additional traffic that will be in that side of town. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. And just as a reminder to people, this isn't a public hearing, so we can't ask you questions or anything, even if anything comes up, just so you know. You can speak on your mind, but we're not, it's because it's not a noticed public hearing. It's just public's chance to speak. We can't have any interaction. You can ask questions, and we can try to address them later. Or I don't know if you can speak to anything, Cameron or Kyla, but it's not an interactive thing at this point. Exactly. Yes. Next up, we have Rick Smith.
It seems like you guys have decided with the developer already, because it's just been going on since March or April, I think. And I am concerned with the developer. First off, he's got no credentials. He's only been around for 5 years. He's from Chicago. He's got a fancy address. And they try to get every nickel out of the property that they can. They spend way too much for this property. And what I'm saying, they're going to get every nickel out of it they can. And it's a perfectly good neighborhood. And it's 490 units they're planning on. And I'll bet you our whole community over on the south end of Trailer is less than that. And he's going to put all that there in all that space. Where's all the traffic going to go? If you're going to plant a stoplight up there on Taylor, it's going to be backed up, forever. I want to see the plans too. We like I said, you guys got to do your homework. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Rick. Next we have Tina McFadden.
Thank you. So just hit this button then? Or it's on already? Oh, okay. Yeah, my concern is turning the lift station that's been proposed for the Lakewood development. Is that lift station going, I know we can't ask questions, but my question is, maybe you can address it later, is that lift station going in participation of the proposed Lakewood development off of Ridge Road? And if so, that would be bringing in like 491 homes, and if you double that, that's like about 1,000 kids, let's say two children per family, so that's an extra 1,000 kids. And our schools are already at the max of how it is already. So where are you going to put the children? And then there's another 1,000 cars of, 2 cars per family. There's another 1,000 cars on Taylor. And last time this proposal was brought up in 2007, I know there was a development that wanted to be, that was inquiring about that land, and there had to be an access to Cottage Grove Road to be another access. in order for that development to go through. So I hope that that is still the case, that there is another way to Cottage Grove Road instead of having all of the traffic come down Taylor. And putting in a stoplight is not going to really address all of that extra traffic. And that was what it is here. It's just like, yeah, so those are my main concerns, is the traffic, the schools, and then just for the development of the land. And we're really losing a lot of our farmland too, you know, so it's just like, I think farmland is very important for conservation and all of that type of stuff. And Cottage Grove has really grown a lot. I've been here since '72, so I've seen a lot of growth already. But I think the main thing people are concerned about is the traffic. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Tina. Is there anyone else in the room? Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak?
Oh, yes, we were just wondering who actually owns that land? Has that land been sold? So if that's something you could address later.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak at this time? Okay, come on up. Just give your name and your address and your municipality and tell us what's on your mind.
Hi, I'm Mary Wick. I stand on the corner of Highway N and Wheelbridge Taylor every morning for a half hour. And I know that you're proposing something. I was curious what you were proposing for the intersection. But what I see every day is the buses have a hard time turning. And someone was saying that you were thinking of putting in some kind of islands or something. And the school buses already have difficulty, and they hit the cone probably once a week. I have to grab my cone when they turn. So you're going to have to consider that traffic as well as all the other traffic that goes through there. And when the church has something going on, like a holy day a couple days ago, it's really crowded, and they're parked all along there, and vision is really hard. So consider something like that too when you do something to the intersection. Thanks.
Anyone else in the room wish to speak? Come on up. Just give us your name, your address, and municipality, and let us know what you think.
I'm Jose Leon for Yarrow Hill Drive. So I don't know, you guys drive usually during the rush hour, but in the mornings I have my little kid I have to take to school every day, and I follow the school bus every day. And sometimes in Taylor and right in the corner of Taylor, when they try to turn, they have to wait like at least 5 to 10 minutes because the bus cannot clear the turn. And sometimes the pedestrians put a cone in the middle and the bus runs over the cone because it's not enough room to turn. It's like every single day you have to wait there. So, and then when the school is in session or like end of the day of school, the traffic goes like at least 2 blocks back because there's nowhere to go. Yeah, and even though you have the parking lane there, people go around, but it still backs up the traffic for at least 10 minutes. You're waiting there in rush hour. So I think you guys should consider that, or just drive during the rush hour where that people usually go do things, because it's ridiculous that you guys want to put like 400 units and the same one-way streets. It's kind of like, where are all the cars gonna go? Everybody has places to go, and then it's like, we gotta wait for a stoplight. That's not a solution. As far as that, just you gotta wait 10, 15 minutes, and then we have all the other new apartments, the low-income apartments, and the kinder care is caps every single day over there and stuff like that. So we have put so many apartments and new housing around here, and the infrastructure in Cottage Grove has been the same. I've been in that address for 10 years, and I haven't seen any big changes at all. So it's like we want to keep bringing more people to Cottage Grove, and the infrastructure hasn't changed. Can barely take care of the park that is on there of the street in Yarrow Hill Drive. You go over there, you can see all the kids' playground and everything is full of weeds and stuff like that and falling apart, and you guys want to put just a stoplight and 40 more houses living here. There's around 1,000 more people to live around here, and it's nothing to accommodate them. Like the schools are full and everything, so it's like, what are we gonna do with the kids that are actually living in Cottage Grove already? Where do they gonna go to school? And the same as the emergency room and things like that. It's nothing that the things that people need to use daily, on a daily basis, is not those accommodations for us. So I would like that to be considered before we approve that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the room wish to speak? Not seeing any hands. Anybody online wish to speak? All right, we will move to the next agenda item then. Number 4, discuss and consider meetings from the Public Works, Properties and Sustainability meeting of October 1st, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Moving to item 5, unfinished business, Ridge Lift Station, Force Main, and Sanitary Sewer Project Update.
So as part of the Utility Commission and the Ridge Lift Station project that is going on off of the corner of Dentaria, there will be road improvements along Trillium Trail and Dentaria as part of that. The road and the curb are being reconstructed, as well as new sanitary sewer and a new force main being installed as part of that project. Within the meeting packet, you can see the drawings for the 90% as well as our current OPCC as well as the project schedule regarding how that will play out with the development. This was more for of a FYI for the project, as there are going to be some road improvements overarching as part of that project. The utility is moving forward at this time with the current timeline, all depending on some developer agreements as well. Anything you would like to ask, Josh?
The road work itself really isn't changing.
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, I just can't see the light. Okay.
Yeah. The road work itself isn't really changing the width of the street or the functionality of the street. You know, there'll be some obviously some curb ramp updates, but a lot of it's going back kind of as is. There's some minor grading stuff to deal with some stormwater and things like that. But in general nature, the reason we're redoing the street is because we're putting a bunch of utilities in the ground, and we're kind of destroying everything on the top side and having to replace it. So we're saving what we can. What we can't will be replaced as part of that project.
And I think we just need to mention that the current lift station that we have, which is ailing a little bit, will be taken out and replaced with this new station, correct?
That is good. That is a good point. Is the Trillium lift station that's sitting there, you know, in that development will go away. Gravity sewer will go over to the new lift station, and it will be taken from there. So that one will be abandoned on that site, and that site will have everything removed from it. That small little site along the road there.
And to note that that lift station, the Trillium lift station that's located right by Houston Park, is nearing the end of its lifespan. And so there will be a lot of funds that would have to go into that lift station in the near future.
A question, you had touched on it. The developer's agreement is kind of driving the timing need for the lift station today.
Correct.
So is the timing such, I don't know when a developer's agreement, I would think you'd first need final plat approval. I don't know how the process of developments work, but if the development were not able to go through, would we just cancel this project?
That is from a financial perspective, that's kind of what we're balancing right now. What would be the reinvestment into Trillium, or how would we address, as the capacity for the village grows, how do we address it more regionally? So we were working with Josh, and we got some direction from Utility Commission that we need to be providing that kind of analysis in January for their meeting. I believe the plan is that this is being brought forward to the Utility Commission in January or February in its totality.
Correct.
And then, you know, so everything is laid out. So both the cost of the full cost, 100%, as well as what would be if we wouldn't move forward with this, or the development would fall through, what would be the additional cost needed to go into Trillium to bring it back up to being able to serve the area.
Okay, so either depending on all of that, what you just described, it could be just a street project, or it could be the full project that we're looking at.
The only way the street project would go through is if the force main and lift station go through as well, for that portion of Dentaria and Trillium at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, the way our utility commission has discussed it, we're either doing the entire project with the lift station in conjunction with the development, or we would likely look at just reinvesting in Trillium.
Got it. Okay. And then I just had a question on the plans themselves. There's just a note, there's gonna be a construction easement, it looks like, east of Heather Drive, east of the Arrowhead subdivision, along the field, the western edge of the field, to get to the construction site. Is that the plan to be the primary access route for the contractor?
No. It will be a route that they will be able to access, and they will have access to that. There will be a permanent, we're purchasing land for the utility, and there will also be a temporary easement that will be used for the construction of that utility. But once the sanitary sewer is installed, the intent is to not to continue to use that easement, as it will expire, the temporary easement at a portion with the purchase of the land.
So the construction of the lift station, that access would be down like Heather Drive or some other street?
They are able to use Heather Drive and that construction easement until that lift station is installed, and the lift station is intended to be installed first. So once that is installed, then it'll just be local construction traffic.
Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we will move to 5B, discuss the 2025 streets project.
Okay, Kyla, do you want me to take it from here? Is your mic off?
I was blinking green. Yes, Strand is here to discuss the 2025 streets project for your consideration.
Yeah, so first, there's a handful of different projects going on. 2025 Streets is the first one. Here with me tonight is Christine Herbert. She's, leading the design side of these different municipal projects for the village this year. So I have her with me here today to just kind of answer questions, walk through kind of what each of these projects were. The big reason we're here tonight is to discuss that Wellbridge-Taylor Main Street intersection, but we thought we'd discuss all kind of three parts of the project at the same time. So we're going to start with the streets, and let's see if I can share here the screen. You would have seen these same images in your packet, and I'm just going to walk through. I'll let Christine kind of walk through kind of the different components of the 2025 street projects and how they're similar maybe to some of the last couple years of what we did.
Hi. So these projects are similar. They're just pulverized jobs with spot curb and sidewalk replacement and some driveway aprons. I will zoom in here. So the first part of the project is Bonnie Road. The village staff has gone out and surveyed the sidewalk and curb areas to be replaced. Pretty standard project like the other years. Limits are to the north and then Progress Drive to the south. As part of this project, we'll be redesigning the curb ramps to bring them up to current ADA standards. The main portion to discuss on the Bonnie Road portion of the project is we can re-put in these curb ramps where they are right here, where I'm pointing. They are very removed from the Progress Drive intersection, and they're currently in front of the stop sign. So we can put them back in place, or you guys can consider changing this radius here and bring them closer to the Progress Drive intersection.
Yeah, I mean, that location, obviously, with the police station there, you may have some other things that you're going to be doing at that site. When we look at this intersection, it has really big radiuses, bigger than even the turning radiuses on like Main Street to get onto Progress Drive. There probably isn't a need for that. It almost looks like it was planned so that trucks could turn, as they were turning, multiple trucks could be turning at once, which is a little atypical. Unless you're gonna have extreme truck traffic, you just allow them to kind of wait, hold up, and then just take all lanes to make their movements. Doing that pushes that crosswalk way back, right? And legally, that crosswalk's supposed to be in front of the stop sign. So it's just set up really strange. As we were looking at this and talking to Kyla, It almost feels like maybe we should stop short and you guys should consider this intersection a little bit more as the police department kind of comes in here and does their site design, or we could do something now if so decided. But we'd like to get your guys' opinion on that moving forward.
Well, I guess my opinion is that, given the fact that there's going to be more development in this area and it's less of a industrial park with semi-truck movements like when it was originally designed in the early 90s, not knowing what facilities were going to be in here, we certainly could put a road diet on this intersection and pull both those radiuses in. And, now would be the time to do it as part of this project because that's all the exact same work that's going on. I think we have enough time to go ahead and go through that exercise to do it correctly before the project were to go out to bid. I don't think, Northern Battery has a fair amount of deliveries, but I think they're primarily straight trucks. I guess you guys investigate a little bit and see how many people truly have it, but as long as we could get full-size semis around that corner comfortably, I'd be proposed to do it the way it should be done. Let's set up the crosswalk in front of the stop sign like it's supposed to happen. If we have a little bit less pavement, I don't think you're gonna care, Kyla. That's just less to plow, less to salt. As long as it creates a safe intersection, like I said, where we're gonna have more pedestrian traffic in the future with the police station and other uses out there, I think now's the time to take a look at that.
So one thing I do want to note, when we were putting together, when this was discussed, and this would have been kind of before I started as well, is the thought that this intersection to be completely reconstructed was not included in the budget for this overarching pulverizing job. So if that is something that we are considering as part of the Bonnie Road project, that is something that I'll need to discuss how we can fit that within our pulverizing streets reconstruction budget. The other thing that we can consider is we could stop short, as Josh mentioned, and Progress Drive is slated to be resurfaced here in the next 2 years, kind of after the police station is done as well. So there is also that option where we can put more thought into how that whole corner looks at a later time. Yes, it delays it 2 years, but also something to think about.
Well, and maybe what the prudent thing to do is let's put the design effort in right now and understand what those costs are, how they fit into our budget this year. We were going to talk, we would have less asphalt that would be going in, less grading, less rock, more curb, obviously, and maybe a little bit more sidewalk. Maybe that balances out and fits in this year's budget. If not, the design is done and we do it, like you said, within the next couple of years when we do Progress Drive. But I think it's prudent to go ahead with the design now to understand what it should look like.
That works for me.
And if nothing else, even if we continue forward, let's put it as an alternate on the bid form. And if we choose to accept the alternate, we accept the alternate. If we choose to stop short and push it down the road, then that's what we can decide once we have hard numbers to make those decisions with.
Yeah, and Mike, you asked about timing. Knowing that it was an issue, we got extra survey there anyways, and we can do whatever we need to do now to fit it into this year's project, so that shouldn't be a problem.
I was going to say something, but Mike said it much better than I could have. So, yeah, I live right near here, and I walk, bike, and drive near that corner. And every time I go by there, I get annoyed at how big it is. So, anybody else have any comments? Do we need to consider anything, or is you guys have enough direction? Okay. Then we'll move on to 5D.
There's 2 more portions of the 2025.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go on.
Real quick.
Real quick. The next portion is on Heather Drive and Hawthorne Court, and Heather Court to the north, gapping at Dentaria. Similar project. Village staff already went out and marked all the curb and driveways and sidewalk to be replaced in that area. Very similar. Lots of curb on this street. And then the last portion of the project would be the Johnson Health Path, which is just removing the asphalt and putting new asphalt back. Are there any questions about those?
Is that portion in that bad a shape?
It is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it utilized?
When I bike through there are people on it.
Okay.
Usually a couple kids fishing in that pond when it's not this cold, of course.
Are these all being bid as separate sections that at the time when we get prices back, we can pick and choose what sections we do and choose not to do?
Exactly.
Okay.
We were thinking about, because we are, like Kyla said, we're on the edge of a budget. You know, we're kind of pushing limits at this point, that maybe even Johnson Health Path, just to make the contractor aware, is maybe an alternate bid too, just of, you know, you can always do that any year you're doing any other paving somewhere. So if you have to pull
Right.
one thing out, maybe you do the street work, pull that out and do it the following year, sort of thing. So we'll think about that, Mike, a little bit on how we set up the bid.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on these three projects?
Just on Heather Drive, what made us stop at kind of just north of Heather Court? Is the street changed that dramatically? I live on it, I should know, but I just haven't paid that close attention to it.
The limits of just funding opportunities.
Okay.
Is kind of, and the court was close enough to Dentaria that we went up, and the court kind of was that limit south. So there is plans for the future for that, the northern portion of that to be repaved.
Got it, all right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just kind of speak to the funding. So when we're talking about projects like this, the village board has kind of give us direction to kind of put aside about $1 million a year to address this. So Kyla gets that number, works with the engineers, and right sizes the projects. Now, if for some reason we need to do $1.1 million one year to best economic of scale a project, that's definitely the flexibility. So feel free to provide that feedback to Kyla during budget cycle.
And then the work on Heather is a separate project than the lift station we just talked about and the roads and the road project there.
Correct, yes. That's why you see that gap, why when the picture was up, there was that gap on Dentaria, because that would be included as part of the lift station project.
All right, not seeing anybody else. We'll move to 5D. I just do want to remind people that Plan Commission starts at 6:30. I don't want to rush anybody, but we do have quite an agenda to get through. So 5D, discuss the Wheelbridge Taylor Main Street intersection.
So we were tasked with coming up with multiple alternatives for pedestrian improvements at the intersection. Alternative one is an RRFB to be installed at the similar crossing that's there already. The crossing shifts a little bit to the north just to provide space for the RRFB to be installed. We have the costs here. The pros of this are minimal roadway impacts and provides a similar crossing to a lot of other crossings in the corridor. When this crossing gets shifted to the north, there are some minor utility impacts. Along with this project, the other crossings here are upgraded or updated to current ADA, and then another crossing is included on the south side. The next alternative would be to have mountable medians installed. Similar to the previous alternative, it's shifted a little bit to the north to provide room for an RRFB, and the pros to this, it provides some traffic calming by narrowing the driving lane. And this mountable curb, as you can see in this picture here, it allows for truck turning movements or bus turning movements to continue from the side streets. Some of the cons are it requires some private utility relocates and storm sewer adjustments. And technically, with the mountable median, it does not provide pedestrian refuge here. And then when the lanes are narrowed, the tapers would, would remove some of the parking along Main Street, which was discussed as an important part of this. Alternative 3 would be a raised crosswalk. Similar to the previous alternatives, an RFB would go in, it would get shifted a little bit to the north to provide space for that. The raised crosswalk wouldn't really impact turning movements, and then along with the other alternatives, the other crossings would be improved and another crossing would be added to the south. You can see a picture here from Monona that would be something similar, where it would provide kind of a speed hump that would calm traffic and slow people down as well. Now this could create some plowing challenges along with, similar to the median as well. The last option would be to provide bump outs. These bump outs would shorten the crossing for pedestrians. They wouldn't have to be shifted anywhere because this would create space for the RFB. This would impact turning movements drastically in this area, which was discussed as an issue. So we would just be looking for any direction on which alternative you think we want to pursue.
Do you want to go
There's
first?
been, I'll add something because there's been conversation about it here tonight too from the public. This is kind of, there's like two things going on at once, right? We're looking at this intersection for kind of pedestrians, bike, ped kind of movements here. But then there's also this side issue of Lakewood going on about what additional traffic is going to be generated that comes to this intersection. We recently met with Lakewood. We know they have a traffic engineer on hand. They're doing counts out here, so peak hour counts both in the morning and in the afternoon on the traffic, and then they'll project what's coming out of their development out to this intersection in a traffic impact analysis. So, you know, as we've been working through this and we've been talking to Kyla and staff, while we want to make some decisions and kind of move forward on this piece and keep this going with everything else, it may be an alternative situation where the bids come back, but then Lakewood actually happens and something else happens at this intersection and we just don't do anything at this immediate time, you know? So we don't want to do something that then ultimately is going to get changed or impacted by whatever they are going to do. So we're just kind of planning it right now. Mike?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I just wanted, for clarification for everybody here, I wanted to understand that this particular project we are discussing was completely independent of any development. We were trying to create a safer crosswalk situation in the current conditions as they exist. I definitely would want to take a bit of a pause and say, if this other development that's going to add traffic to the intersection is moving forward, this might not be the solution given that scenario. And that's something we would want to be able to, as you said, either pause it at that time and reconsider based on the added traffic. It may completely change how we're looking at this intersection. And that's absolutely how we would go about it. We would not consider, these wouldn't necessarily be the changes if that development moves forward because it would not meet the traffic requirements that are necessary there. So, you know, what we're discussing tonight is completely independent of, in my mind, completely independent of any future development on Taylor to the east. With that being said, my only concerns and my only comments were, I was concerned about the traffic turning movements as well with putting anything in the center. I'm also concerned about the wider traffic that we see coming down N in terms of agricultural traffic related to Alcivia and, you know, tractors, combines, et cetera, that we typically see coming through here. And anything to narrow this concerns me with the ability for that traffic to navigate safely through there with the pedestrians as well. So I want to make sure that we're taking that into consideration. And I was leaning towards the RFP only because that kind of accomplished both of those things in that scenario. I guess that was my two comments for right now.
So the one thing to note, and if I were to recommend an option to you guys, I would also recommend the first option as an alternative, as Josh mentioned, something that we can pull out should we find out more information moving forward. With those RRFBs, those can be movable too. So it's one of those things that if it is installed and something happens to this intersection that we're not anticipating, it is something that can be relocated somewhere else. Obviously, there's work associated with that, but it is something that can be done. I also wouldn't recommend us putting a lot of money into an intersection that we don't know what that intersection could look like in a year and a half.
Yeah, I can't speak for the rest of everybody else, but I can say right now that if we find out that there's a sign, you know, if this progresses and there becomes a signed developers agreement over the winter prior to this project starting, I absolutely would vote to hold this project until we had a proper traffic analysis and took a look at this intersection appropriately with all the factors considered.
Yeah, I would just agree that I think this project, absent the whole development, improves the intersection. It's kind of deficient, in my opinion, with pedestrian traffic and car traffic. So this gets us to where it probably needs to be. So like Mike said, everything else that goes on in the world, this will need to hold off and see what would have happened there. The one alternative, I think it's number 2, or well, even 2 or 3 with the I'll call it a speed bump, but the island, the hump, whatever you want to call it. My only concern would be you have such large traffic going through there, big trucks. Does that create like a lot of noise? Is there a lot of boom, boom, boom? Because wouldn't want the people living next to it to have to listen to that all the time.
Yes, it can. And so as part of the project, when I was discussing with Strand, it was what are the 4 best options that we could bring to you guys, knowing the different constraints. So that's why they kind of put that pro-con list with all of the options, because it ultimately depends on, are we looking for something that's going to improve the intersection, which would be option 1, without creating smaller turn lanes, truck turning movements, adding a mountable curb. It's more of a, where does the committee want to see this go, as this project was discussed and kind of approved to move forward before I had even started with the village, so.
One thing I think would be important to note is I don't think there would be too much added noise as long as you're going the appropriate speed. But I think the most prudent option is probably to start with 1, see where we're at going forward. If we need to slow people down continually, we can look at a speed hump, but just based on what people have said and the large vehicles, I think having a median is probably not the greatest idea, and bringing in those curbs maybe not such a good idea either. One question I did have is this looks like zebra stripes in the rendering. Most of the crosswalks in the village are just the transverse lines. Is there do we have like a village guideline to what kind of paint we use when we're doing crosswalks?
So did we put the ladder up at N?
I think the ladder's at most of your
Main crossings.
Yeah, and it's usually a little more of a visual thing. So I think down by the bike path, that one's laddered, isn't it? So when you cross the tracks on where the trail comes across, is that not laddered?
It might.
I think it is, and I think the one we put into the north are both laddered.
Are both. I think when we cross.
Usually it's a higher kind of visibility at kind of, more traffic, pedestrian kind of focus. You'll put that in versus just kind of 2, 6-inch lines. Some people will put colored epoxy down too, or something else, but that's taking it to the full next level.
So we do have them at the RRFB that's located at Oak Street.
Okay.
Yep, they're there. I know they're there.
This would be the zebra stripes or whatever you guys call it then?
Yep.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Do we need to consider, or you got enough?
It sounds like, so the thing, and I would agree with everything that's been said. Christine and I have talked about this at length too. Large trucks, even if you put anything out there, it couldn't have poles or anything in the middle because they're going to have to be able to track over this stuff. It seems like the most prudent thing to do, and going forward, just like Kyla said, is maybe you move forward with installing an RFB. I do think it's important, and we've talked about it a few times, that we have a crossing to the south too. Everybody's focused on the north, but if you go out there and watch, there's people that cross south all the time, and there's no crosswalk there. So at least providing 2 of them might also kind of make more of a visual at the intersection, because you have 2 of these sort of crossings. So I think getting that in as a minimum, as kind of this bid that we can pull out, as Mike was saying, would probably be the direction. We just want to make sure that that's okay with this committee, because they wanted to look at a bunch of variety of options in the past.
Yeah, I just think option 1 is the best way to start, as opposed to putting something else in and then having to fix it later. Anyone else? All right, we will move to 5F, discuss the multi-use path.
Sure, yeah. So the last project is the one along Cottage Grove Road. Let me zoom out here for a second. Christine, I'll let you take over a little bit and just some of the discussion on this. So it's creating that widened path to kind of finish off the path that runs along Cottage Grove Road from Southern Grange over to Main Street.
So starting at the west side, we just connect in, and we've chosen this kind of meandering path to follow the current multi-use path cross-section requirements. Unfortunately, there are trees that are removed. We tried to move things around and save what we could by also meeting that cross-section requirement. There's some areas where we would tie into existing concrete. We come forward towards the road here because of this ditch area, go through all of these driveways over here. Can't see the side. The main portion to discuss here would be this wall requirement. There's many trees over here and an existing wall, and we've pushed the path as close to the road as we could and tried to do our best to save these trees in this area. The path would get widened here. to not have a 2-foot strip of grass to maintain in this area. And I'll zoom in on a cross-section in a second here.
That's where all those oak trees are, if you remember. We've kind of talked about it in the past, right? And I think we still go back up to that, Christine. Are we showing one tree that's still removed there? So of all the groups of oaks, there's one that's specifically close.
The closest one here that has that wall going right by it. And I can zoom in on a cross-section of that. So the way this would look at this point would be about a 3-foot wall here, and where the tree is surveyed would be right up next to that wall. So it just doesn't seem likely that it would get saved. And due to the wall and the distance off the path, there would be a railing requirement for that retaining wall.
Right, so we're showing that along, that's right along the curb, the path at the curb at that point. It goes back, but you're providing 2 foot of clear, so you're not riding right up against the fence either, to provide yourself a little bit of clear space there as well. So we're trying to kind of hit what some of the standards as part of that and try not to over narrow it. We could go and kind of do a variance there and over narrow it, but then I feel like people are gonna be upset that it might be a little bit too narrow in that section. It's up to you guys. It's either one tree or narrowing it completely there.
How wide do we have back a curb to the back of wall right now as it's shown?
It's a 12-foot path and then 2 foot to the front of wall, so 14 feet.
So we're
So you have
providing.
14 feet from back of curb to the
Yep.
street side of the wall.
Yep. Typically, you provide 2 feet of clear on either side. So, Mike, think of that. That would be a 10-foot path.
So you could get a 10-foot path with 2 feet of grass on the terrace and 2 feet of grass against the wall.
Yeah, but we'd probably just pave up against the curb, so you're not trying to have to pave that 2 foot of grass there.
But even at a 10-foot wide path, which is 6 feet wider than the sidewalk that's there,
Yep.
we could go to a 4-foot terrace, which would be very comfortable for a terrace to maintain and to look good and to keep people away from that lane of traffic on Cottage Grove Road, and still have 10 feet wide of pavement that a bicycle, walkers, runners, etc., easily can stay a foot off that railing comfortably and have plenty of passing room. I guess my opinion would be to stay with 10 feet of pavement and 4 feet of terrace to keep people closer, further away from traffic, closer to the railing. I mean, it's a railing. It's not like we're going 10 miles an hour on a bike through there. I think that's safe and comfortable and still provides a better look.
Yeah, so does everybody kind of following Mike's proposal? Keep the whole thing, put the path right up against the wall and the rail, which you can do, Mike, and we want guidance from you guys to do that. They suggest you keep the 2 feet off unless under special circumstances, which you could make the argument that it is, but we'd like some guidance on that piece of it. We still would be taking out the one tree.
Yes.
As part of that, yep.
That's my 2 cents.
I would agree with that. The traffic is just too fast right there.
Yeah,
It
pull
goes
them
through
away
the-
from,
Pull them away.
yep,
Even the sidewalk is too close right now.
yeah. And it would probably put it close to where the sidewalk is now, but you'd have a wider path that you could stay further away, John, is kind of what you're, yeah.
There's an overhead distribution line along the south side of the sidewalk today. Does this accommodate that, or does that have to get relocated?
I'm working with Alliant as part of the project, and it will be buried underground.
Okay.
So that's the other thing to consider, this path is taking out trees along there. A lot of the trees now that are planted along there, though, are the lower growing variety because they don't want them to grow up into lines. So it might not be bad that there might be some replanting opportunity here to kind of create a corridor that has some higher trees even on that side. While we don't want to take out trees, it might give you a chance to plant some stuff back that actually makes the corridor kind of feel a little bit more like an older corridor with higher trees on either side too, as part of it. Just maybe a positive.
Are you going to describe further down the line, or should I hold my questions about further down the line?
Sorry, Christine, we kind of jumped in there.
So the rest of or next portion here, continuing to the east, a lot simpler, less in the way. There are some trees. We go through the driveways. We move closer to the road here due to some right-of-way changes. We cross the street, and this area over by Main Street is one of our questions. Right now, we have an asphalt path proposed. We're not sure if you'd like concrete through the driveways, or in this area possibly put concrete in to delineate it more where the asphalt goes right up against the sidewalk. And then we have some questions. Like, do you want concrete through the driveways? Do you want to replace trees as part of the project? Are you okay with some of the grading limits going beyond the right-of-way to tie into some of these driveways better? And would you want to replace any of the curb at the driveways, or would we want to try to keep that within the limits of the existing curb? Or what were your questions?
Well, I'll speak to a little bit of that. I'm kind of split on the bike path going through the driveways. I feel that the heavier truck traffic can do more damage to the asphalt through those driveways and, shorten the life of the asphalt through there. I'd prefer to see concrete. I know you've got a lip or a bump then each time you cross a driveway with the bike path at that location. So, I'll defer to your expertise as which one makes the most sense. My preference would be the concrete, I guess. Next question is, in front of Meineke and the shopping center there, right now the biggest problem is the cars park right up onto or over the sidewalk when you're trying to run or walk through there in the evenings. What do we have for separation to keep that from happening when this becomes an asphalt path tight to the parking lot? Is there a landscape separation there, or is it asphalt to asphalt for a little further west of that location? That's fine in front of the shopping. It's right down there closer to Meineke and the west side of the shopping center. Yeah, that area right there.
So we do have space proposed, 4 feet proposed from the edge of the concrete to the asphalt the way it is.
Okay, that would be very helpful, because that's the biggest problem right now, is a 4-foot sidewalk with a car that generally is overhanging at least a foot, if not 2, onto the sidewalk. Makes it very difficult to get through there a lot of the times.
In the winter, they plow all the snow right there, and
Yep.
it often goes right under the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, it requires a few more trees out again along that piece of it, but it gives you that separation like you were talking about, Mike. That's why we proposed it away a little bit from that parking.
Yeah, last comment regarding the trees. If knowing that the overhead line is going away, I absolutely would like to see a line item for replacing new terrace trees throughout this area. Once again, that's another thing we can consider to accept or not accept come bid time or come budget time. But I do believe that we should be trying to plant trees back in there as part of this.
So I want to make a comment that I have general concerns about safety of the bikers on this path, all the driveways, especially Meineke and Black Bear. I would like to have some discussion of what we can do to help mitigate this. I think the idea of concrete over these driveways, I would be not in favor of. Part of it is this perception of right-of-way, and I want these bikers to have the right-of-way and know that the vehicles need to watch for them and wait for them. I know there's construction reasons why you wouldn't choose that, but in general, I would just want these are very uncontrolled intersections that are of high traffic, and bikers are going much faster than walkers. There is a much higher chance of some problems occurring. I don't know the best solution. I don't know if it's coloring them a different color, if it's signs, or if it's considering the north side. And I know the north side has its own problems with ACE, and then the cross section or the intersection with Oak and everything. But I'm concerned, and I don't know the best solution forward.
No, absolutely, you should be concerned. I mean, as we should all be concerned with pedestrian safety. I do like the idea of the concrete through the businesses' driveways. Typically, all of our aprons are concrete to begin with through the right-of-way, so it kind of gives that extra buffer that, hey, this is a driveway zone. If that's the way, it seems like that's the way the committee is looking like they would like to see, we can definitely move forward with that.
Nick, were you suggesting the other way, though? You were
You were suggesting the other way.
Just because
I
you're
want
saying
the path to have the right of way, so asphalt is across it.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Is there a way to, like, if we did concrete, could we do like green paint just so that it's super visible and people might stop there because they can see it? I don't know how much green paint costs.
Has anybody seen the new stuff they did in Fitchburg along Fish Hatch?
It is green paint.
And it's not all green. It's
It's green on the outside. I
it's
live
green
over
striped.
There. Yes.
Yeah,
it's green striped. So it's green striped on the outside of the path. like through, it's by Cahill, Maine, so if you've ever been to the Great Dane in that area, there's a left, right out, right in, right out. And so what they've done to make it more pedestrian safety is it is through a street, an intersection, a driveway essentially, but they have greened it on both outside of it to make it more visible for residents, for drivers.
So I guess my only question would be, in the idea of long-term maintenance, can it be green epoxy that you can maintain instead of high-friction surface coating that we can't do ourselves to maintain, and that's going to cost 10 times as much up front?
That would have to be something that we would have to look into, because we don't keep green paint on stock right now.
Right.
So
that is what it looks like up and down the new Fish Hatch corridor. They do use concrete in theirs, and I think it's probably from what Mike said. I've seen it both ways in a lot of different places, but they use this same kind of zebra striping that we were talking about on the pavement, but it's green, because green, indicates the biking side of it. I've seen these completely painted in green. I've seen them asphalt and concrete. It's kind of all over the board. I don't know, every community kind of has their thing. Right now, almost all yours are asphalt as they cross. I think all your crossings are asphalt today on the path. But I get how some of these, you just want to make it people aware as they're crossing it. Hey, you're crossing a path. You're crossing a path for the drivers. And I haven't heard anything bad about these ones in Fitchburg at all. They seem to be working, and they haven't had any issues with them so far. But maintenance is a big deal. Like Mike said, you got to keep up the paint.
Well, and I guess I'm with Nick. Anything we can do to improve the pedestrian safety through this entire path corridor, this east and west, as well as our north and south one, especially if it's something that we can maintain in-house with green epoxy, I would absolutely want to entertain that as an option.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, I gotta pull up my agenda again. Otherwise, we can move to new business. Discuss the agreement for the operation and maintenance of traffic control signals and street lights.
the city of Madison operates and controls all of our street lights throughout the village at all of our main intersections. As of to this date, there has not been a formal agreement that's been in place. It's kind of fallen through the hoops. I met with the traffic engineer several months ago just to understand what their process is, and that is where we are at. They're updating all of their agreements with all of their communities because Madison controls and operates a lot of the surrounding communities' traffic signal agreements. Our attorney has looked at it. We've gone back and forth, and he is okay with all of the changes that are in there. And so it is coming to you guys for your consideration for board approval to sign. Any questions on my end?
No, I read it and reviewed it, and it seems to fall in line with what we have been doing with them for years now. It's just a formalized way of handling it, so I'm good.
Is that a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the agreement as written.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, opposed? And abstain? Motion passes. On to 6C, discuss the membership for Wisconsin Bike Fed.
So we were a member of Wisconsin Bike Fed, I believe in 2023. We did not re-up it in 2024. A letter came across my desk to re-up our membership. It's a $500 membership to be a part of it. We are advertised on their website. It allows bike-friendly pedestrian uses, shows where our facilities are located. So it's something that I have brought to you guys to consider us re-subscribing into.
I think it's a good idea. Anybody else have anything to say?
As long as there's some sort of benefit, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware. I guess you have to explain the benefit for spending $500 to me.
It was something that we had done previously. It is something for our bike-friendly sustainability part of our goals and mission. I can get you more information. I don't have a whole lot of information on it. But it's something I can come back with you guys for more information.
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe come back
Okay.
next month, just so we can get this
Yeah,
meeting
I'd like
moving
to
along.
understand it better.
Sounds good?
All right, 6E, discuss sustainability goals and staff direction.
I would recommend tabling this till next meeting.
Any objection? All right, we'll postpone until next meeting. Number 7, engineers report.
Not a lot to discuss. West Lawn's kind of wrapped up for the year. Quarry Ridge is still putting in some utilities until in the early winter here. Amazon facilities kind of stopped mass grading and stormwater construction, but they're going to continue on the building for as long as the weather holds out, and then that should be all year round, hopefully, on their end. 2024 streets is all wrapped up. Punch list stuff is getting taken care of, and we just talked about 2025 streets, so we're good.
All right, any questions on that? Seeing none, moving on to 8, director's report.
Dave Beacon, our previous street superintendent, retired the Wednesday before Thanksgiving after multiple years with the village. He is missed. However, we do have a new street superintendent, Jason Anderson. He comes from the city of Fitchburg with 11 years there, so he is up and running and doing very well. We have had some snow operations with light dusting, salt, so we are moving forward with that operation, as well as I will be coming back to the committee in likely January for more information on the Pelletier e-waste event, as we've gotten some more feedback from Pelletier on how that event is ran. So more information to come on that.
Any questions on that? Otherwise, we can set the date for the next meeting. It should be Wednesday, January 8th at 5:30. Does that work? All right, we'll put that down. Any future agenda items besides the 2 we punted on tonight?
Not necessarily agenda item, but when I'm driving anywhere in the Madison on BB, the lights at Damascus I noticed, and also at, was it Bass?
It's
What's
been
up with them?
it's been looked into. I'm
Okay.
coordinating with Madison Traffic right now. There's a delay that allows for school traffic to keep moving forward, and the delay is not right, and I'm working on it with Madison Traffic.
Yeah, because it'll turn when there's no cars there.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other future agenda items? Otherwise, we'll move to number 11.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We did it, less than an hour. Good job, everyone.